So today's mission is a memorial tribute to a professional footballer named Vasko Boev.
And, when reviewing memorial records and biographical timelines like this, the initial impression is often just cold data, like it's just chronological facts.
Yeah, exactly, just dates on a page.
Right, you get a birth date, a list of employers, and a tragic death date. The real challenge and the real value here lies in taking those isolated data points and reconstructing the actual human trajectory they represent.
And to do that, we're relying on a collection of beautifully compiled memorial records and biographical summaries. I really have to point out, by the way, that the Memorial Channel Bradford are doing a great job researching and editing these videos.
Oh, absolutely. It's painstaking, vital archival work.
It really is. They ensure these localized, deeply human stories aren't just, paved over by the digital churn of the internet. They give us the foundation to actually understand a life. Wow. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our goal today is to honor Vasko Boev's life by exploring not just the raw statistics of his time on the pitch, but the profound story of dedication, community, and passion that those stats actually point to.
We really have to synthesize the timeline to do that. We are looking at a man born in July of 1988 who navigated a grueling professional athletic career and who passed away prematurely in April of 2026.
Right, at just 37 years old.
Exactly. We need to figure out what those 37 years meant to the community he left behind.
Well, let's start right there with the most striking detail from the very first lines of his record. The geography.
Yeah, the geography is huge here.
It really stands out. Vasko Boev was born on July 24th, 1988 in Varna, Bulgaria. He died on April 28th, 2026 at the incredibly young age of 37, also in Bulgaria.
Such a tragic loss at that age.
Truly. And his burial site is listed as the Central Cemetery Park in Varna, Obstina Varna. Memorial ID 298708866. So he's born in Varna, lived in Varna, and was laid to rest in Varna.
Seeing a timeline cut short at 37 years old forces a completely different kind of reading. There's no sprawling multi-decade retirement to analyze.
Right, there's no second act in another country.
Exactly. Every single year of his adulthood carries more weight because the total number was just so finite.
I think it makes that geographic consistency even more poignant. He didn't spend his limited time wandering around.
No, he really didn't.
There is an analogy that comes to mind for this. It's like an ancient tree in a courtyard. The branches might have swayed in different directions over the years, and the weather around it is constantly changing, but the roots never leave the exact yard where the seed was planted.
What's fascinating here is how that level of geographic loyalty flies in the face of our current cultural metrics for success.
Oh, absolutely. It goes against everything we're taught.
Think about the messaging you receive every single day. The modern socioeconomic narrative demands mobility. To climb the corporate ladder, to find yourself, to achieve significance, the underlying assumption is that you must leave your hometown.
Right. The further away you go, the higher your perceived status. Like moving to a global hub means you made it.
Exactly. But let me push back on that a bit, actually. Doesn't staying in the exact same city your entire life sometimes indicate a lack of ambition?
Oh, that's interesting, like getting stuck.
Yeah, because we are constantly told that comfort zones are where dreams go to die. If you never leave, you never experience the friction required to grow. So how do we read his story without falling into that trap?
Well, that is the dominant narrative, yes, but it ignores the profound psychological weight of institutional memory.
Okay, unpack that a little bit.
When a person is born, lives their entire life, and eventually rests in the same soil, they become something much larger than a resident. They become a living fixture of the environment.
Right, they become part of the city's DNA.
Exactly. Every local business, every street corner, every community hub contains a piece of their personal history. For a city like Varna, individuals who stay and invest their total existence into the local fabric provide an emotional and cultural continuity that highly transient cities completely lack. They are the gravity that holds a community together.
That makes a lot of sense. That level of deep community integration is so clear when you realize he didn't just casually live in the city. His actual job was defending its pride on the pitch.
Yeah, let's look at his professional journey. Vasko Boev was a professional soccer player. And he didn't transfer into Varna as a hired gun.
No, he rose entirely through the youth ranks of Spartak Varna.
Right. And he made his professional debut in the top flight, the Bulgarian APFG, in 2007.
We really need to contextualize what the APFG, the first professional football league, actually represents. It is the absolute pinnacle of Bulgarian football.
It's not just a casual weekend league.
Not at all. Surviving a youth academy to reach that level is a statistical improbability. A professional club's academy is basically a ruthless filtration system. Thousands of local kids enter with the dream of playing in the stadium they grew up looking at.
And most of them don't make it.
Exactly. Year after year, players are cut as the physical and tactical demands escalate. Making a top-flight debut means you have outcompeted practically everyone in your age group through sheer grit and talent.
It is the ultimate hometown fantasy, really. You start as the kid in the stands eating sunflower seeds, and a decade later, you are the one down on the grass while your neighbors and friends are the ones in the stands watching you.
It's a beautiful image.
It is. But what really defines his career for me is the position he played. He was a defensive midfielder, and I think a lot of casual fans completely misunderstand this role.
Oh, they definitely do. It's not a flashy position.
Not at all. A defensive midfielder is basically the load-bearing wall in a house.
Elaborate on that. Why a load-bearing wall?
Well, nobody ever walks into a house and compliments the drywall or the foundational studs. They look at the flashy chandelier, which is your star striker. They look at the expensive bay windows, which are your attacking wingers.
Right. The guy scoring the goals.
Exactly. The strikers get the magazine covers, the multi-million-dollar boot deals, the highlight reels. The defensive midfielder is doing the ugly, invisible work.
They are breaking up the opponent's counterattacks, covering the empty space when a teammate makes a mistake, making the simple, unglamorous passes.
Exactly. But if you take out that load-bearing wall, the chandelier crashes, the roof caves in, and the entire team collapses.
The physical and tactical toll of that position is immense too. A defensive midfielder cannot rely solely on bursts of speed like a winger. They have to possess a highly developed tactical brain.
Yeah, they have to see the game differently.
They do. They are constantly reading the geometry of the pitch, anticipating where the attack will flow like 3 passes before it even happens. And physically, it is a brutal, punishing grind.
Because you're in the middle of everything.
Right. You are constantly making tackles, absorbing contact, and covering more ground than almost anyone else on the field. To maintain that specific role in professional football for over a decade requires an incredible tolerance for pain and a completely selfless ego. Your entire job is to make the players around you look better.
But wait, looking at his career records, I have to challenge this narrative of him being the ultimate hometown hero just a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
The records show he spent over a decade with Spartak Varna across 2 separate stints, ultimately making over 120 league appearances. However, he didn't only play for them.
Ah, right. The other clubs.
Yeah. He also had stints at Dobruja Dobruch, Kaliakra Kavarna, and Athletic Provadia. If his legacy is supposed to be this unbroken loyalty to the soil of Varna, how do we reconcile him jumping ship to play for 3 other regional teams?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, those stints at other regional clubs actually highlight the gritty reality of his career rather than diminishing his loyalty.
Really? How so?
We have to separate the romanticized idea of a one-club man from the ruthless economics of lower league European football.
Meaning he wasn't exactly getting a lifetime contract to stay put.
Far from it. The reality for the vast majority of working-class professional athletes is a constant fight for survival. Contracts expire. A new manager comes in who prefers a different tactical setup.
Or the team just runs out of money.
Exactly. The club faces financial restructuring and has to slash the wage bill. When you are a defensive midfielder, a role that ages poorly because it relies so heavily on physical durability, you don't have the luxury of dictating your terms.
So it was just about staying in the game.
Going to Dobruja Dobruch, or Kaliakra Kavarna, wasn't a betrayal of his hometown at all. It was a professional imperative. He had to go where the minutes were to keep his career alive.
I see. It strips away the Hollywood glamour. It's not about kissing the badge for the cameras. It's about doing whatever it takes to stay employed in the sport you love.
Exactly. And the most telling part of that timeline is that he fought his way back. He had 2 separate stints with Spartak Varna.
He didn't just fade away into the lower divisions permanently.
No, he returned, and he accumulated over 120 league appearances for his hometown club. Achieving that milestone as a defensive midfielder requires a profound evolution as a player.
Because your body's breaking down, right?
Right. As you lose a half step of pace in your late 20s and early 30s, you have to compensate with elite positioning and intelligence. Those 120 appearances prove that multiple managers looked at their squad and realized they absolutely needed Vasko Boev's reliability holding the line.
It is the ethos of the anchor, applied literally to his career. Which brings us to the final chapter of his story, and honestly the part of the biographical timeline that I think is the most revealing.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's look at his transition out of the professional ranks. The records indicate he officially retired from professional play in 2024.
We need to contextualize that date within the broader timeline. He retires from professional football in 2024, and he tragically passes away in April of 2026.
So just 2 years later.
Exactly. We are analyzing the final 2 years of his life, a period where he had absolutely no idea his time was running out.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you look at athletes who survive a grinding 15-year career in a physically punishing position, retirement usually means a complete break.
Oh, yeah. They want out.
Their knees are gone, they're mentally exhausted by the pressure of performance, and they want nothing to do with the sport. They disappear to a golf course, they start a business, or they just sit on a beach somewhere and try to let their bodies heal.
But Vasko Boev took a completely different path.
He really did. The records show he immediately pivoted. He stayed deeply involved by becoming a youth coach at the Spartak Varna Academy, and he actually kept playing the game, but for an amateur side called Ustrom Dunchevo.
Wow.
So what does this all mean? Why subject your body to muddy amateur pitches and spend your afternoons running cones for kids when you've already earned your rest?
This raises an important question about the fundamental nature of sports and why we play them.
I'm curious to hear your take on this.
For a significant portion of professional athletes, the sport is heavily commodified. It is a vehicle. It is a mechanism to escape poverty, to secure a financial future, or to achieve a certain level of local or national fame.
It's a job, basically.
Right. And once that vehicle stops paying out, once the professional contracts dry up and the stadium crowds go home, the motivation completely evaporates. The transaction is just over.
Right. If you are only doing it for the paycheck or the prestige, there is zero logical reason to step onto a pitch where neither of those things exists.
Exactly. But lacing up your boots for an amateur side like Ustrom Donchevo strips away every ounce of the professional ego.
Because there's nobody watching.
There are no massive paychecks in the amateur leagues. There are no media scrums. There's just the raw, unadulterated mechanics of the game. And standing out in the cold, teaching positioning to youth players at the Spartak Varna Academy is often a completely thankless endeavor.
It really is. Kids aren't exactly paying your bills.
Choosing to do these things immediately after retiring proves that his relationship with football was never merely transactional.
It was almost like an act of rebellion against the idea that sports only have value when they are monetized. He was playing because he was a footballer down to his marrow.
He was driven by a pure love for the geometry and the physical exertion of the game itself. Furthermore, his transition into coaching at his hometown academy is a profound act of legacy building.
Because he's passing on what he learned.
Right. He possessed over a decade of hard-earned tactical intelligence. He knew exactly what it took to survive the brutal filtering system of the APFG. Instead of hoarding that knowledge or trying to monetize it elsewhere, he poured it directly back into the next generation of kids in Varna.
He spent those final 2 years ensuring that the roots he had put down in that city would continue to support new growth long after he was gone. It really reframes the tragedy of his passing, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
I mean, a life ending at 37 is always devastating, but looking at how he spent those final 24 months giving back to the exact same community that raised him, it shows a man who was entirely at peace with his place in the world.
It is the ultimate manifestation of community service. He gave them his childhood as an academy prospect. He sacrificed his prime physical years acting as their professional defensive anchor. And he dedicated his final days to being a mentor.
He didn't need to conquer the globe to validate his existence.
No. He conquered his own patch of grass over and over again for the people he grew up alongside.
And for you, listening to this deep dive, I think this is where the raw data of a memorial record translates into something you can carry with you. We are constantly bombarded by a culture that equates success with scale.
Oh, everywhere you look, bigger is better.
Exactly. We are told to expand our reach, to build a global personal brand, to leave our small towns behind and chase relevance on a massive, highly visible stage.
It's exhausting.
But the trajectory of Vasko Boev's life, from the Youth Academy of Spartak Varna to his final days coaching in the exact same system, it demonstrates a completely different metric for a life well lived.
It forces a massive shift in perspective. It challenges the assumption that reach is inherently more valuable than depth.
There is immense, undeniable honor in being the load-bearing wall. There is profound value in dedicating yourself wholly to your local community, in holding the line so that the structure around you remains sound.
That is so well said.
Thank you. Vasko Boev wasn't just a set of dates on a memorial page. He was the anchor of Varna.
And as we close out this deep dive into his life and legacy, we want to leave you with a final thought to consider as you step back into your own community.
What's the takeaway here?
We live in an era completely obsessed with going viral, with accumulating digital footprints that span continents, and with being known by as many strangers as possible. But looking at the fierce, localized dedication of a man like Vasko Boev, it forces us to ask a really tough question.
Let's hear it.
Is true lasting immortality actually found by pouring your entire life, your passion, and your sweat into the exact same soil you were born in?